Introducing Foxclan Publications, stepping into the light.
Hello everyone, this is Matt of the Authors Podcast, Stepping into the Light. I would just like to take a moment to ask everyone that is watching this video to like and to share and to also subscribe. That helps us out tremendously so that we can bring more people to our channel and get the message out about what we are doing here. It would mean a great deal to Wesley, Tim, Joe, and I if you would do that. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We hope you continue to tune in every week. Thank you, and our podcast is coming up next. Thank you for tuning in today. We here at Foxclan Publications really appreciate every single one of you. Some things discussed in this podcast may be considered controversial. We ask that you listen with an open mind and understanding. Also, the day of this release, June 22nd, 2023, Wesley, Tim, and I will be conducting a paranormal investigation at Poasttown Elementary. There will be some information about Poasttown Elementary released before the podcast that provides information and evidence of said investigation. Thanks again for tuning in, and the podcast begins right now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. This is the Authors Podcast, Stepping into the Light. I've got here with me Wesley and Tim as well. And today we're going to do a round table discussing some of our paranormal experiences. You guys want to say hello to everyone?
Hey, everyone.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Yeah. Hey, Matt, how you doing? Hey, how's it going? Tim Hebden here, paranormal investigator and author.
And this is Wesley, paranormal investigator and author.
And I'm Matt. I'm an author, and I guess you call me the host of this program. Anyways, so we're going to start off. We're each going to tell our stories. I'm going to tell my paranormal experience, then Tim, and then Wesley will tell his and close us out, as long as that's agreeable to everyone. Alrighty. Well, anyways, again, my name is Matt, and I had a paranormal experience while I was in college. I grew up in a Lutheran church, and, spent my whole life in that church. And when I started going to college and taking some of the classes, I started really slipping in my faith because of what, they were teaching in the college. And at one point, and this is actually what broke up my band that I had back then, at some point I said, you know what, I don't really believe any longer. And I was struggling telling my parents that I was going through this because, they've always been in the church and everything. And so I was just kind of keeping it to myself. I was keeping it to myself when it came to my band too. I was still singing our songs because we were a Christian band. But then I let that band go because of it, and lost some of the things that I cared most about. But there were just several things that were stripping my faith away. Like, you would go to a class and the professor would get up in front of everybody and declare Jesus is the reason that the Roman Empire fell, and the Christians, and they destroyed the Roman Empire. And then you'd have another one get up, calling the Israelites goat herders, and all they did was tell these stories and repeat them, and they didn't really mean anything, and you just hearing these things over and over again can really start affecting your faith. I was part of a group called InterVarsity, They were a Christian fellowship. They had Bible studies a few times a week, and they had get-togethers on the weekends and things like that. And I had noticed I wasn't the only one going through this at my university. Several other people that I was going to InterVarsity with were also going through it. And it just tells me like the anti-God rhetoric at universities is very effective for people that have, especially people like me that have grown up their whole lives believing. But I realized, as I was going through this, at some point, you have to really establish that you have your own faith, not just because you grew up in it, but because, it's what it means something to you. But anyways, right after I declared I no longer believe, something crazy happened. And, some people might say, oh, that's just a dream. This was... It was much more than a dream. It was more of a vision. It was more of a warning, if anything. But, just getting into the dream that brought me back to Jesus again, I had this dream, and it just snapped me out of it. It was so scary. But anyways, the dream started out, I was at my house, my mom and dad's house at the time. And I was driving to the music store. It was called Metro Music. The place is shut down since then. But there was something following me. Everywhere I went, it was there. I couldn't get away from it. I couldn't drive faster in the car to get away from it. I couldn't run away from it. It was there. I walked into the music store, and this thing followed me in there. And I took this metal rod out of a guitar, which I don't even know that that's possible, but I took a metal rod out of a guitar and I stuck it in its neck. I don't know exactly the reason why I did this in my dream, but immediately I fled that music store. And when I headed home, it was about a 10-minute drive, the store was, from my parents' house. It was no longer following me, so I thought I was in the clear. But once I turned onto the road that leads to my mom and dad's house, as I was about to turn into the neighborhood that we lived at, I was about to turn there, and there were along the side of the road in the grass, there was nothing but a line of cloaked figures that were dark. You couldn't see their eyes. And the minute that I was about to turn into my neighborhood, all of a sudden they lifted up their heads, and then they lifted up their hands and pointed, basically telling me to keep going down the path I'm going. Don't go to my neighborhood. Don't go home. And they looked at me, and they all did it at exactly the same time. It was synchronized. They didn't want me to go home to my house. They wanted me to keep going on the path I'm going. And so I said, well, I may not know what I believe right now, but I ain't going the direction they're pointing to. So I went into my neighborhood and went to my house. But when I walked into my house, it wasn't really my house. It was empty, just like I was feeling at the time. It was empty. My parents weren't there. I couldn't turn on the TV. It was nothing but snow. And the loud noise that a TV makes when the channel doesn't work right, that kind of noise. And then all of a sudden I turned around, looked towards the kitchen table, because I was looking downstairs where the TV was. Turn around, look at the kitchen table instead of going downstairs, and this cat jumps on the table. It would have been the cat that we had at the time, but its eyes were glowing red. And it was just staring at me, like looking through, almost like looking through my soul. And like, as soon as that happened, it snapped me awake out of my sleep, and I started crying because it was the scariest thing I've ever seen. And the minute that happened, I prayed. I said, I believe. I will never doubt you again, because I don't want to experience that emptiness anymore. And it was so real. It was so real. It was just so scary. And those cloaked figures especially, they were the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. They obviously did not want me to find God again. So that's kind of what my story is and how I became strong again in my faith.
Well, thank God you got your faith back.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, but I know with our experience, even Tim will tell you that that's what it was trying to do. It was trying to make sure you didn't get your faith back.
Correct. Trying to lead you down another path.
I
What
can't
we're doing.
even describe what that thing that was following me looks like. It's like I couldn't really see it. It was there. I knew it was following me everywhere I went, but I couldn't see it. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't my friend. I can tell you that much.
A lot of times in a dream like that, if something is following you or comes to you in a dream, it will not show you its face. It never does show you its face because it doesn't want you to see that. That's a way of them hiding from you or whatever, how you express it. So, yeah, that's very common.
Yeah, well,
Cool.
that dreams, I'm going to call it a vision. I don't think it was really a dream. It was more of a vision, like a warning. I feel like it was a warning. It was God was warning me.
It's helping you find your way back. to what
Yeah.
we're doing. Yep, exactly. Oh, that's a pretty good dream. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, that is things in life you don't forget. That'd be one of them.
Yeah.
I guess I'm next. So, I've always been interested in the paranormal my whole life, and I was a skeptic because nothing had ever happened to me. Nothing had ever come forth, or had I seen anything other than just feeling something or whatever. And so, I got involved in the paranormal, being an investigator, and Wesley was one of them. He contacted me through that, and we had met down at the Branson Paranormal time, and we talked about it. We talked about the Villisca house, which, if anybody knows about Villisca over here in Iowa, it's the largest unsolved mass murder in the state of Iowa. 8 people killed overnight, and to this day, it still hasn't been proven or solved to this day. 1912, as a matter of fact. So we were talking about, visited Branson, we visited Branson, went to the ghost tour. And so I sent him a text. This is the weird story. I sent him a text saying, Merry Christmas. He sent it back going, who the hell is this? I mean, that's how it went because we'd only talked back in June. Then I told him who I was. And then so he said, you want to go on an investigation? So we come out, and it's in eastern Iowa. And this kid was cutting his arms. He was doing all kinds of stuff that was just insane. I mean, he was actually taking razor blades, cutting his arms, what have you, and his parents. So I joined the investigation. I mean, he wanted to go, and I got in the truck and went because I was like, oh, this is cool. So I got started, and I had like a video camera, and I had bought some equipment and stuff, but I was pretty green, so to speak, trying to get started. So they go into this house with this family and this kid, and it's a farmhouse out in the middle of eastern Iowa, kind of the middle of nowhere. And Melissa was with us at the time. As a matter of fact, I think it's Haunting in the Heartland. Haunting in the Heartland was the episode on the what was it on?
A haunting?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, on a haunting. So we went out there. So I go in this house. We're walking through this house. It's a normal farmhouse like anywhere else. They have a bedroom in the back. Nobody go in. They just stored stuff back there. They wouldn't even go in the bedroom. So we were walking through the house. We opened that door and went in the bedroom, asking questions. And Melissa was behind me. So I got it's a red dot, detect heat in the room. So I'm going up the corner of the room. As I got to the top corner of the room, if you can imagine, okay, look at a room and look at the top corner of one of the corners. It turned orange. And I thought, well, that's weird. And all of a sudden I see this black face come out and go back in the wall. Well, I'm a green investigator. I'm like, yeah, I didn't see that. There's no way. And Melissa goes, yeah, you did, because I saw it too. So skepticism started falling away. So I'm doing this for my first time. And so throughout that night, we got EVPs, we got voices, we heard footsteps, we were hearing things. But we got something on camera at 3:30 in the morning. That's the most interesting thing. We were in the living room, and it was a long, narrow living room, and So the window's on one side of the house and the couch is on the other, and there's a TV on the wall. And it was quiet. And most people were asleep or sitting there, and we turned off the light, started doing EVP sessions, and this bright light comes from like the window is and arcs across the room and goes into one of our pieces of equipment and kills the battery. And they got this on video. So let's go back to it. This is my first time ever investigating. So this place was interesting, and it was to the point of now skepticism starting to fall away, because what I wanted to believe in my whole life, I'm now seeing before my eyes. It's happening in front of me. And so that was most interesting, but that's what got me started on this path to where we are today, and it's kept me going. I would say Wes took me out the first place he took me had demons in it, so that's where we've been started ever since. So anyway, so we've been kind of on the dark side of the part of the world and hunting demons and looking for dark entities and helping people in their houses. And you call us, if somebody's got an issue, we like to go and help you because we want to figure out what's going on. Nobody should feel unsafe to live in their home. And these people had a teenage son who was doing this radical stuff and cutting his arms, and he was doing some stuff because something was telling him to do that. And so in reality, those are the type of things that we do. We want to help people get to that point. On my side of it, my skepticism went away. I've been hooked ever since. I went once, and that's where I'm at. But throughout the whole thing, we talked a little bit yesterday about a possession and all, and those things make you stronger. They make you realize what you're facing and how to face it and how to go toward it. And since that first day, trying to process that, or the first time I went, trying to process that and understand it and go forward to where you are. 10 years later, that was in 2013, so it's 10 years later, here we are, still doing it. And so that's my story to the point of how I got started in this paranormal world and paranormal investigating. Before that, I was a real skeptic. I'd never seen anything, nothing had ever happened, but that opened my eyes to realize that paranormal exists. And ghosts aren't ghosts, because I don't think there's really ghosts, but there are entities, there's demons, there's these things that exist in your home. So I'll leave you with this. If you happen to go into a building that you've never been in before, or you walk through a space and you get that shiver goes up your spine, you get that little urge, think about it. That was energy. You walked through energy in a room. How did that happen? In a peripheral world, in the 3D world, how does that happen where we can't see it? It shouldn't happen in our world. So my start is actually a demonic case with a young kid. To this day, I think that kid's doing very well. Wes can elaborate more on what they did to help that kid out and go forth. So that's how I got started in this, and that's how I'm in it today, and I'm still in it today, and I'm very much in it because I find it interesting, and I want to help people. And I used to think I was looking for something to find and see what it was, and that one specific thing. And the hotel in Forsyth, Missouri, well, we found it, and that's just point blank. So I guess that's my story, and that's how I got started into this realm. The possession that we talked about last week renews my faith. It gets me stronger. It makes me go. And my fear, a lot of my fear now is gone because I know what I'm facing head on, and I know how to face it. I know how to look at it. And helping other people helps me because now I'll go into a dark room and stand there because I can. Because I know I know who has my back. I know who protects me and who watches out for me. And that's my faith in God, and that know that Jesus Christ is there, and archangels, and they're all there. I wear a medallion to do that. So anyway, that's how I got started in this whole business.
All right, I guess it's my turn. A lot of people know my story from a haunting on season 7, episode 9, called A Nightmare in the Attic, which was in 1983 when I was a child. And of course, we've talked about that before. But that's what got me interested in wanting to help people. And then I moved to Branson, 2011, And then sometime in 2012, Melissa and I set out to try to investigate and help people. Little did I know at that point that, Melissa had one heck of a gift. A wonderful gift that would come in real handy on all of our investigations. We started off, we did one case and it wasn't that good. Got a little bit of evidence here and there, nothing too spectacular. But we did get some, people see orbs, big deal. But in that particular case, I remember getting black orbs. And that was kind of weird, kind of spooky. We got a few EVPs. And then, we branched out and went to an old abandoned church. And that church was called Sycamore Log Cabin Church. And that's just outside of Branson. And of course, I've taken Tim there a couple times too.
We sure have.
Now, the first time we ever went, it was dusk. It's a small church. You can see if anyone goes in or out. And it was me, Melissa, the three boys. And we all decided, you know what? Hey, let's just set this recorder down. And we set it in one of the pews. And we all stepped outside. So we can watch anyone going in or out. And about 15 minutes later, we go get the recorder. After we got home, on the recorder, it sounds like a little girl saying, "Jesus comes." Now that EVP I still have to this day. It's clear. But there was no little girls there. Of course, we found out that that church is supposed to be haunted by a demonic entity that haunts that property. And some people say, well, it's not possible. Demonic can't come on church land. That's false. If that land wasn't anointed right or anything else before it becomes a church, then oh yeah. And then there ain't no telling what's actually happened on that property, before it was a church or anything else. There's lots of bad stuff that happened in that area, we found out. But, we ended up getting, that EVP, the little girl. A different time, I got it growled at. So we've had lots of little strange things happen. The main story I'm going to talk about much later on, and this would have been after the thing that we talked about last night. I had a girl call me up. I won't give any names, but she said that her boyfriend at the time was really scared that she was coming in and out of possession. Could we please help her? I said yes. So it was set up for her to come down to Branson. She come down to Branson. I called Tim. And then I warned Tim what was going on, that we may need to do an exorcism. And we were there. Well, out on the tour that night, she went ahead and went on the ghost tour because, I had business I had to do. But I were about halfway through the stories. And somebody, I think it was probably Tim that pulled me off to the side. Yeah, it was Tim.
What? Yeah.
He's like, Wesley, have you been watching her? She is just staring at you, giving you the most evil looking look.
She was too.
I guess her eyes had turned black, dark black.
Yeah.
And just staring me down. So we tried to hurry up, get the tour over with. And we went to a motel. Me, Tim, her, and a couple other people. Her boyfriend was there, her husband. He didn't believe in any of it, but he was willing to try whatever happens to see if we could help her. So Tim and I start doing the exorcism. And this would be the first exorcism we did without Joe. But it ended up being a crazy one. You know, just like with Kenzie before, her eyes turned black again and was fighting, cussing, ranting, raving, speaking a language we didn't know, and extremely strong. Extremely strong. By the end of the night, needless to say, her boyfriend was a firm believer. Now, a little bit of a backstory. Before she called me, she told me that, you know, she walked across the property where the house that we lived in that was torn down, where that used to be, because she lived there in Lowell. Now, during the exorcism, part of something that was said, I'll say it told me, "You're going to die just like your family did." And of course, it was maybe a year before that, my sister Mary had passed away, and my sister Barb. And it's kind of funny, considering how I had the stroke a year ago, or almost a year ago, and according to the doctors, that I almost died then. Now, I know I don't have that exorcism anymore, but I know Tim does, but I would post parts of it if people were wanting to check it out, because it was extremely weird. And I know at one point she settled down, we thought it was done, and then the person filming it was up close to her, and the next thing you know, she goes flying across the room because she got kicked.
Yep.
So we had to go back into the prayers and stuff, and finally got it to release. And once it was gone, she was completely fine, didn't remember anything.
Yeah.
She said the only thing she actually remembered was when we put the cross behind her head, or on her head, or even her heart. She said it burnt really bad. That was the only thing she remembered.
Good.
But I know about 2 years ago when I spoke with her, she said everything was fine, and she is still doing well. And I talked about this in the House of Echoes 2 Full Circle book. That was my story for today.
Wow. Just when you mentioned like the eyes turning black, sure sign of the demonic for sure.
Yeah, she was, during that tour, man, she was at a dead stare with Wes. I mean, a dead stare. She was like she was going to kill him. It was full on. And she actually, when she went kind of, when we were doing the exorcism, she went kind of limp in the chair, and we thought it was over. And we told her boyfriend or husband it wasn't, and he didn't believe it. And she come out of that. I got clocked that day, if I remember right. I got hit pretty hard in the side of the head. Knocked my glasses and my hat off. Yeah, I mean, she hit me hard with a fist right in the side of the head. And she would stare in your eyes and tell you were sheep, and no, it was pretty intense. Yeah, it was pretty intense. I remember that well.
Wow, I almost feel speechless about all these stories.
Yeah.
So
it really happened. Yeah, it really happened.
Well, I know, Melissa's going to be able to add to both the stories that Tim and I talked about. Even she has her own little story about one of the nights when we went out to the church and some other stuff. I'm sure she'll be able to add in.
So our plan
is
to do a part 2 to this, and we have 3 more people that'll add to the stories. So that'll be very interesting. I'm sorry, Tim, what were you about to say?
Oh, nothing. The log church that Brad was talking about earlier, we went there one other time and kind of going ahead, but we saw shadows running through that church and growls and shadows outside of it. You know, it was we can go into that later, but yeah, it was terrible. It really was.
Definitely, and we'll probably do more of these types of roundtables to tell more stories. So we'll definitely plan on having more episodes like this. But you know, it's nice to have different styles of episodes because that's what people enjoy the most. So, but yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed this story today. These stories today, they are very much a real part of our lives, and we just want to share what we've been through so that other people, you know, can either like relate with things that they've experienced, or, you know, hopefully it'll make them think, like if they're on the fence of believing in God and accepting Jesus. We do want to provide enough evidence to you that, hey, you know, Jesus is real, because you don't want to be around demonic entities without him, with no protection. That's for sure.
That's for sure.
It's just basically like walking in a mine. So, well, anyways, that's really, do either of you have anything else to add today?
I don't think so. I mean, that's how we got started into this whole thing. I mean, Wes and I met in 2013, and we've been doing this ever since because we believe, and Joe's been with us, and Melissa was with us, so yeah, and now Nikki's with us, so yeah. We do what we do because we like doing it, but we think it's the right thing to do to help people. So.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining our podcast today. Tune in again. We'll be providing episodes weekly. While our episodes will regularly be on Thursdays, sometimes we'll have some episodes on Tuesdays as well. So, you know, we'll send out alerts and messages. And please, if you're listening to this again, I would like to ask you to like, to share, and to subscribe. The way the YouTube algorithms work, if you do those three things, they promote our channel so that more people can see it. And also what really helps is if you leave us comments. We're always looking for other people that have stories to share as well. So feel free to contact us about that. Anyways, thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next episode.
See you later, Matt.
See ya.